Speaks Live. Welcome back to another one. Tell the truth here. Don't care if it make them uncomfortable. It ain't our fault. Yo, but Marlon Speaks Live. Yeah, I'm saying what they hide. History uncensored, let the real survive. Yeah, it's truth over comfort, I don't pick no side. If it shake the room a little, let the truth collide. Cause it's Marlon Speaks Live. No script, no disguise. I don't sell no lies, just to monetize. Cause the past still breathing and it never dies. Yeah, it's Marlon Speaks Live. Now the truth will rise. Yo, it's Marlon Speaks Live. Yeah, I'm saying what they hide. History uncensored, let the real survive. Welcome back. Another episode. Marlon Speaks Live. I appreciate y'all for being here. Merry Christmas to everyone. So yeah, I haven't seen all of this video of this guy. I just found out who this guy was. His name is Matt Walsh. Never heard of him until recently, like maybe 2 or 3 days ago. Then it dawned on me, let me go to his channel. And I see he's very popular, 3-point-some million subscribers. I just did a Google search on him to see like his background history. I see he's from Baltimore County. I don't know what city in Baltimore County, but apparently he's been, Baltimore, if y'all know, Chocolate City. They pulled the industries out of that city just like they did Detroit, just like they did in every place where a bunch of black people was. They took all the jobs out of the community. And then, just like if you do that to any community, what's going to happen is they're going to implode. So Baltimore, like any other city, that's what happened in Baltimore. A catastrophic history after they, pulled them. They had a lot of waterfront jobs that was pulled from basically a whole lot of jobs that I think a lot of them jobs still there. But as we all know, a lot of times, the majority white men get the opportunities. So what I'm going to do right here is go into Matt Walsh's, see, that's a little bit about his background, but I'm going to go into his false claims and debunk all of them, and actually add some perspective to all of his false claims. So he claims that the decline of America is because white men have been discriminated against. When, if you understood the so-called glory days of this country, which everybody today want to be fixated on the 50s, the 40s, the 50s, that wasn't when America was great. That's when America was the only developed country in the world. It was no competition worldwide. Now, the U.S. has still got the top GDP, gross domestic product, in the world, but we're being competed against. Like, it's a lot of other thriving economies. This is a global market now. Everywhere is now bombed out or underdeveloped. China bounced back. Germany rebuilt. Europe rebuilt. So now it's real competition. Yeah, when you're the only country that is built, not great, but built, you by default will become. You would think that you are the best, and that's what happened. It was all an illusion. Coming out of what we call the Great Depression, when the whole world was messed up behind the economy of this country and the rest of the world. It decimated the whole world, right? That was right before this era that these modern white men like to call the best ever. And it's usually a grandchild of a white man from that era. So I looked at Matt Walsh's age. He's 39 years old. That age group grew up hearing their grandfathers talk about the 50s and how great it was and how all white men had jobs and all this stuff, right? And that's that time frame I'm referring to, when America was the only. But the politics and all of the bull crap that this country was built on started to creep up in the 60s, 70s, all out. It was over. 80s, 90s, when I was coming of age, it was, the writing was on the wall then. The NAFTA, now I don't agree with NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. I don't agree with it. But see, NAFTA was necessary. You know why? Because you had emerging economies. You can't just ignore progress in other places of the world. You have to include yourself in that progress. And so what we have here in this country is we're being competed against inside the country and outside. Inside by other races of people. White people are being competed against by other races. You're not just going to get the opportunities and the jobs that you once got just because you white and you know somebody. You know why? Because other groups of people know other people too. And since in the white race, y'all have not only ostracized other people and groups historically, especially within the last 40, 50 years since white flight developed, y'all have enclosed yourselves. So now y'all don't know nobody. Y'all don't know nobody. Y'all scared of other races in general. Scared to even know them, let alone reproduce. Yeah, you know why? Y'all can't love other races because if you loved them, you might mess around and reproduce with them. And what would happen? For all you racist white people, I want to know, y'all get in the comments, tell me, if y'all love black people, you start loving us, what's going to happen to your race? See, that's why y'all need to have hate. It's for your survival. But what you don't understand is the white race didn't even exist until a few thousand years ago. It was not a right race. Y'all are not even a race. Y'all just come from us. Y'all come from the base. That's it. All humanity. So yeah, man, on this good Christmas day, we gonna debunk this racist white man who want to be a victim so bad. He got so much white guilt, it's oozing out of him. So much, but he don't know where to direct that guilt at. It should be directed at his ancestors. But see, like I said, this era of 39, 40-year-olds born in the 80s heard their grandfathers talking about when America was great. When actually America was not only not great, it was just the only developed country. You can't compare yourself to nothing. You have to have something to compare yourself to call yourself great. If you the only person on the track in the race, you didn't win nothing. You're the only person out there running. So yeah, let's get into this, man. It's really interesting. I'm gonna try to let him finish, but I might be chiming in because I already felt the tone of it a little bit that I watched. I was upset, but let's watch it. I'm gonna add the link to this in my description as well.
We don't usually come across long-form articles that resonate with millions of people these days, mainly because nobody knows how to read anymore. For as long as everyone's owned a cell phone, pretty much every form of media has been locked in an arms race to make content shorter, more attention-grabbing, more conspiratorial. So it takes a lot for a 10,000-word essay in a tiny, little-known publication to break containment. But that's exactly what happened with a new article in something called Compact Magazine titled The Lost Generation. Now, it was written by Jacob Savage, who's a white man who aspired to be a big player in the entertainment industry before he had to settle for a much less glamorous career scalping tickets from his bedroom. Now, it's not hard to see why Savage's article has been so well received. It's a well-researched, well-written explanation of how major institutions in this country, particularly...
Right. So right there, that's like the first example of how you know white guilt is being displayed. Why the white man scalping tickets from his bedroom? Why is that less glamorous? Like it's so many stories within my community of people that aspired to be something and they just didn't make it. And what y'all always say is, well, you got to pull yourself up by it's no excuse. You know what? We can't come up with excuses and all these different scenarios to try to say that's why you didn't get to where you got to. You know, you can't blame it on the white man. You can't blame it on. Ain't that what y'all always say? Oh, now you want to play the race card. It's not a card when y'all play it, huh? What is it? The deck? It's the whole motherfucking deck, right? Yeah. So that card y'all always want to say we playing, and which by the way, it's not a card at all that we play. What we're usually referring to is the deck that your ancestors created for us. But it is a card when y'all play it. This is a card that y'all playing out of the deck that your ancestors created. But be mad at the deck, not the card. Yeah, let's continue.
The media in Hollywood have systematically discriminated against white men over the past decade. Now, it's definitely not a perfect article for reasons that we'll get into. And it reaches a conclusion that is obviously wrong and frankly kind of embarrassing. But at the same time, if you've been looking for reasons why every aspect of society seems to be falling apart, and we've been, talking about that on the show for the past few weeks, this piece in Combat Magazine is a very good jumping off point. Now, in particular, the article includes the following statistics on writing jobs in the entertainment industry, which help explain why every streaming show and movie, virtually without exception, is now terrible. Quote, in 2011, the year I moved to Los Angeles, white men were 48% of lower-level TV writers. By 2024, they accounted for just 11.9%. Women of color made up 34.6%. White men directed 69% of TV episodes in 2014 and just 34% by 2021. But that remaining third went overwhelmingly to established names, leaving little space for younger white men. Since 2021, 11 directors under 40 have been nominated for Emmys. None of them have been white men. Now, the article goes on to describe a white man who wrote a screenplay that made it on Hollywood's blacklist, which is a...
You know, this is so crazy, too. These racist, white guilt having white men always have to bring up statistics, right? To prove their point. Numbers. Charlie Kirk, same thing. We don't have to bring up no statistics. All we got to do is bring up history. That's why you see so many people like this guy trying to debunk some historical fact that all we got to do is pull up this happened, right? They want to bring up statistics to prove, oh, when white people was in control, or statistics of violence, things that they people are actually culpable or actually responsible for historically, creating that environment, right? They just want to look at the numbers. Just like with this right here. He want to look at the numbers of what's going on in Hollywood instead of the trends that's happening in the world. You don't want to look at, like, in general, when white people ran Hollywood, that was a totally different time, right? Totally different time. It matched the overall American culture. The American culture now is more diverse. You need something to match how the culture is. It's no knock to white men at all. Just we already heard y'all stories. You know what I mean? No knock. But let's continue because I got a whole lot more to add to this.
A prestigious list of unproduced screenplays as determined by Hollywood executives. But despite that achievement, he couldn't land a full-time staff job from any showrunner. At one point, he was told to his face by a showrunner, a Gen X white guy, we're told, that they already had too many white people on staff. And the author also notes that Dan Erickson, the white guy who created the Apple TV show Severance, which is the best show on TV today, I think.
I've never seen it, never heard of it.
By a mile, and one of the best of this century.
See, we're living in a time where you could have the most popular podcast, like Joe Rogan, right? I just seen his podcast for the first time last year. I only caught a few episodes. But you can have the most popular show, you can have the most popular song, you could be the most popular rapper, you could be the most popular country artist, you could be the most popular or whatever, and a whole lot of the different demographics might have never heard of you. You might be a stranger to a big group of people. It's very possible. This country was built on separation. So, you know, the R&B charts versus the pop charts, that's basically white and black. So that's an example of being a country artist, pop, you know, or not even a country artist, but a certain type of artist versus a R&B, the R&B charts. R&B charts represent black music. Now, it could be white people doing black music that's on the R&B charts as well, you know, but the point of it is a lot of these things that's in this country is divided by race. So, and these are actually established parts of our culture, right? Like official establishments that are separated. You know what I'm saying? So, never heard of Severance. Never heard of it. I might go check it out now that he promoting it. You know, when people say certain things, that's what kind of piqued my interest. But the people that I associate with have probably never heard of that show either. That's why I never heard of it. Let's check it out, though.
Wasn't able to land a job in a TV writer's room until his own show began production. And in some cases, the discrimination was put in writing. One higher up at a talent agency wrote, quote, "Chicago Fire, the UL upper level, can be anyone, but we need diverse SWs, staff writers." Savage also points to the Disney Writing Program, which is basically a boot camp that leads in most cases directly to full-time staff writing jobs on major shows. And over the past decade, Savage notes, the writing program has awarded 107 writing fellowships and 17 directing fellowships, none of which have been given to white men. None of them. Now here's the webpage for the current crop of fellows in the Disney Writing Program. And see what you notice when you look at this. There's only one person who could plausibly be described as a white male in the entire cohort. And when you look at that guy's bio, he informs you that he's a Tejano comedy writer who's proud of his queer crime comedy pilots. And that's the other thing. When we talk about the white males who are allowed to get jobs in this business, if you were to narrow it down even further, which this piece doesn't do, to straight white males, then the situation becomes even more dire.
See, this is why this guy's point in bringing this up is so ridiculous. Maybe he should have picked a different example, but Hollywood and all of the arts, especially in theater, anything theater-based, movie, Hollywood, all that, it traditionally ran by, you know, people from the LGBTQ community. Everybody know that, right? That's a given. You look historically, most of the heterosexual portrayed white males on television was gay, right? So bro. Like that's that's they're straight white men aren't going into that field. That's all it is. Period. Yeah. So I don't understand this whole thing, man. Like straight white men being discriminated against in Hollywood. Bro, that's not where straight white men are usually found. Trust me. Trust me. Yeah, like a lot of that in that field in general, any race, just a bunch of LGBTQ people. It's okay though. Like, that's just what they do. They like to be in the arts. I don't know. I don't even know what that is. I don't even understand how that, or you know what? Maybe I just thought of something because they're acting. They're pretending. So that whole lifestyle, it kind of go with, seemed to me from what I've, learned about it, seemed to me that, you got trans, those are, men or women that dress like men, different men, the other race, the other gender. So what you have in the arts or in the theater or on stage or acting is people pretending to be something else or acting like however they want to see it, right? A man putting on a dress in a movie. A woman acting like a man. I don't know. Either way, they're acting. That kind of go with their lifestyle. Straight men in general don't act. We don't go into theater. That's not what we do. We do what I'm doing now. We speak about things, share our mind and perspective on things. So I don't understand. It's like he didn't really think about this topic, you know what I'm saying, too long. He just was like, that's the issue with these white men with white guilt. They're not open-minded enough to really think about what they saying. It's like they just got this thing. They just need to focus on straight white men being discriminated against, and everybody. That's the reason why everything's messed up. And if we get back in control, and all the blacks would be, back where they were, and all the other races can go back to their shithole countries. And no, bro, we're not going back. We're only gonna go forward. And this little speck in time with Trump, this will pass. Yeah, I'm sorry to tell you, bro, but it ain't no going back. It's no going back. Weirdo.
Every single one of the bios on this webpage begins with a statement about the person's ethnic origin. So Nada is a first-generation Iranian-American drama writer. Ali is a Lebanese-American writer from Detroit, Michigan. Monib is a first-generation Afghan-American writer. Jason is a first-generation Korean-American drama writer. Ananya is a first-generation Indian-American dramedy writer. Fatima is a Sudanese-American traumedy writer.
Sound to me like he mad he don't have a ethnic. Like you mad, bro? You mad because all the white people come over here and just start messing around, and now y'all don't know where y'all originally come from? And if you do a 23andMe test, you don't identify with it, you just straight American. No, you won't want to be American so bad. That's fine though. But don't hate us because we know that we are more. And especially when you're talking about this melanin, look, bro, like it's obvious. We're not trying to, we can't be included in the so-called traditional American culture. We don't want to be. Trust me.
Based in Los Angeles and so on. It's pretty obvious that in the eyes of Disney and the rest of Hollywood, it doesn't actually matter if you're a good writer. Your most important attribute is your ethnicity. And if you look even vaguely white, then you'd better be writing queer comedies about Tejano heritage, because otherwise you're definitely out of luck.
Oh, man. Let's look back at this picture, man. This dude had to bring up. Where the picture at?
American writer from Detroit, Michigan. Monib is a first-generation Afghan-American writer. Jason is a first-generation Korean-American drama writer. Ananya is a first-generation person who could plausibly be described as a white male.
Yeah, so he talking about the guy in the bottom left-hand corner. And, yeah, man, like, you're the only one fixated on how someone looks. Fixated on how everybody else identifies. It's nothing. It's just like clothes you put on. Like, you know, the work and the body of work, you know, that you put, like, it's a bunch of different ethnic groups that work at my General Motors plant. That product that we put out is the main thing. That's the one thing that we're all zeroed in on. We don't, well, it is a bunch of white men at my workplace that do think like him. Obviously, they've been like this. In their mind, it takes all white men to put that truck together. But, you know, by the company affording opportunities to everybody to work there, their process and their you know, how they build the vehicles, that is the most important thing. They understand that anybody could do that, right? So what's the big deal, man? Why do it have to be a straight white dude, you know, to create what they're creating in Hollywood? What's the big deal? I thought it was about the work. It was about what was being put together.
And the entire cohort. And when you look at that guy's bio, he informs you that he's a Tejano comedy writer who's proud of his queer crime comedy pilots. And that's the other thing. When we talk about the white males who are allowed to get jobs in this business, if you were to narrow it down even further, which this piece doesn't do, to straight white males, then the situation becomes even more dire. And every single one of the bios on this webpage begins with a statement about the person's ethnic origin. So Nada is a first-generation Iranian-American drama writer. Ali is a Lebanese-American writer from Detroit, Michigan. Monib is a first-generation Afghan-American writer. Jason is a first-generation Korean-American drama writer. Ananya is a first-generation Indian-American dramedy writer. Fatima is a Sudanese-American traumedy writer based in Los Angeles, and so on. So it's pretty obvious that in the eyes of Disney and the rest of Hollywood, it doesn't actually matter if you're a good writer. Your most important attribute is your ethnicity. And if you look even vaguely white, then you'd better be writing queer comedies about Tejano heritage, because otherwise you're definitely out of luck.
Man, no, the thing is, they don't want us to have nothing. They have to have everything. They have to have it all. Now, this is what I dug up to counter this crazy man's perspective on this. Check this out. Exact ownership percentages are scarce. Data consistently shows that top leadership at major U.S. movie studios remain overwhelmingly white and male, with reports from the late 2010s finding upwards of 90% white executives, though some recent data suggests slight shifts, indicating white men still dominate decision-making roles that control studio direction. Executive level dominance. In 2020, a UCLA report found that 92% of CEO chair positions at studios were held by white individuals and 68% by men, with similar patterns in senior management. A 2015 report noted similar trends: 94% white, 100% male studio heads. While some shifts in senior management by 2020, but still predominantly white and male leadership. So, this the crazy part. They run this. Not only do white men dominate the leadership roles in Hollywood, they like literally like overwhelmingly control it all. So why can't the workers be different races? I'm willing to bet that a lot of them hiring all of them different ethnic groups is the same thing with slave owners having slaves. I'm sure they love to tell these different race of people. Trust me, man, these different race of people, a lot of them probably side with him politically. They're MAGA, a lot of them, I'm sure. So just because they're a different ethnic group don't make them not have the same ideology. Trust me. And even if they don't, even if they are on the left or whatever you might call, guess what? They still have to adhere to what that studio head might be telling them to do, right? Which I'm sure is predominantly heterosexual white males. Since he's so hung up on the lifestyle that these people have, man, like what is going on with these white guilty ass men? I just did a video about white guilt about the same day that he did this video. It's so weird. Like we're taking up so much space in these people's heads. Like they think the world is ending. It's crazy.
I'm not going to summarize all of Savage's findings, but this should give you some idea. He goes on to describe, in much the same way, how other fields, from academia to the corporate press, practice the same kind of anti-white discrimination, particularly for entry-level jobs. The statistics from the university system in California in particular are actually so over the top that they're hard to believe. UC Irvine hired 64 tenure-track assistant professors in liberal arts since 2020, and only 3 of them were white men. And for its part, UC Santa Cruz only hired...
You know what? I just thought, let's look up the percentage of white males that work in the fast food industry. Okay. While exact figures vary slightly by source and year, white males make up roughly a quarter to a third of the fast food workforce. See that? This same trend is happening in fast food. So is the world like coming to an end because white men isn't dominating the fast food industry? I bet he wouldn't bring up that argument. No. You know why? White men don't want to do that work. That's why. This country has been taking just regular work jobs, regular industry, and they're all over the world. But guess who's running these companies? White men are running all of them. The majority of them. They're getting very rich. You got your focus. This Matt Walsh guy has his focus in the totally opposite place where he should have it. So it says 57 to 60% of fast food employees are white. Of those white employees, about 33% are men, while 67% are women. Yep. So we all know why that is. Because white men leave their white women. Just like black men do. Or they probably even do it more. Yeah, man. It says larger proportions of white men, Hispanic, Latino, and black African American workers are in the fast food. That's just how it is. It's the same way in Hollywood. But guess why? It's not because they can't get the opportunity. It's because that's what they don't want to do that. It's just what they don't want to do.
hired 2 white men out of 59 assistant professors in the humanities in that same time period. Savage's thesis is that starting around 2014, in response to political and social pressures, older and more established white men, the decision makers and hiring managers, began openly discriminating against younger white applicants who were starting.
So would you call it openly discriminating or openly giving opportunities to other groups of people that were actually better? And this is what I meant by competing. We are competing inside of the U.S. now. We have been, or starting to try to, especially with the DEI initiative, to try to give more opportunities to black people. Just giving the opportunity, man. They think us being given opportunities and then maybe being granted those opportunities, that's discrimination against them. We never had that argument so much as give us an opportunity. Y'all still get an opportunity. Yeah, y'all just not, overall, you're just not as good as the people that you're competing against for the opportunity. That's all it is.
Their careers. And rather than stand on principle, Savage writes, the boomers effectively sabotaged younger generations. 2014, he writes, was the hinge, the year DEI became institutionalized across American life.
Yeah, I have a theory on that too, based on the boomers, the baby boomer generation. I really feel like the white racist baby boomers are like, they're getting old. They are old. They're old, and they want to take things back so bad. This is where MAGA, this is their main base, the baby boomer generation. The white baby boomer generation is the base of MAGA. And those are the ones who were mad when Obama got in office. Those were the ones who said the world is coming to an end. And those are the ones who talk, who this Matt Walsh listened to. Those are the ones that said, you know, it's not like it used to be and all of that. No, it's never going to go back to how it used to be, because we are more educated in our community now. We have a bunch of immigrants who are very highly educated, and they're competing for the same opportunities that white men have traditionally competed for, but white men haven't, upgraded. They have, the white men that I know, they think everything is a game. They don't take nothing serious. And so now when you look up Obama in office, all these different lawmakers in office, things are changing. It's inevitable. While y'all sitting playing, we being focused. We our eyes on the prize. All these immigrants come in. They don't come in this country to play around. They come in here to upgrade their lives. They don't come here. They have no room for error when they come to America. They do not come here to play no games. They are focused. While you white men who have traditionally handed down opportunities, generation was playing, they was not playing. And now y'all look up and you think you can go to a single year, 2014. Oh, that's when it all started. No, it started many years ago. Many years. You can't even really put your finger on it. Because within our community, it always been a yearning to have opportunity. And once we got it, we took advantage of it. So yeah, let's go.
And then we get this conclusion, which is where things go off the rails a bit. Quote, I'm not angry at the women and people of color who made it instead of me. People have the right, in most cases the responsibility, to take the opportunities that are offered them, or even at the older white guys who ensured that I didn't. Mostly, I'm annoyed at myself, because instead of settling down, proposing to my then girlfriend, now wife, and earning a steady income that might support a family, I spent a decade insisting the world treat me fairly, when the world was loudly telling me it had no intention of doing so.
Yeah, so I got a little insight for that, man. in the entertainment business, which I'm in the entertainment business, 2014, things were changing in every area of what we call now content. This platform included, right? YouTube. Things were changing. A lot of, when things change, see, this is where the racist white male who has that white guilt is confused. Because when things start to change, where you have a lot of uncertainty, that's where businesses start to experiment. And they start to, they might say that the old type of people that we had doing this type of work, we're going to just, shake it up. They shake things up. So you are liable to see a black person in a position of power and authority role in a company when it's uncertainty. So that time frame, 2014, is where a lot of uncertainty was in the music business, the movie, the whole distribution setup of content was changing at that time, right? So that's when you started to see a whole lot of different diversity going on. You know why? Because it wasn't, it was uncertain. Yeah. So they don't put us in them positions when things are going good. They put us in them positions when things aren't so good. So that's the thing. That's where a lot of these racist white men, heterosexual white men, are confused, and they skew. Like Charlie Kirk, he's such a young man. He around my daughter age. I got a daughter around his age. He don't have no real, no real life history, no life lessons, no real life experience to speak on a lot of the, and rest in peace to him. But he didn't have a lot of life experience to speak on a lot of the things that he was speaking on. I have about double his. I'm about 50, at least 20 years. So I know when things aren't going so well in any company that I ever been in, that's when I seen a black person there. Yeah, that's when I seen a lot of different ethnic groups running it, doing stuff. Because you know why? Because they feel like they probably finna shut this down anyway, move to something different, and they won't feel bad about firing a bunch of black people. Yeah, so that's not a good analogy, bro.
So he's not angry about the people who discriminated against him on the basis of his skin color. He's angry at himself. He's certainly not angry at the unqualified people, the quote-unquote people of color, who got the jobs that he should have gotten.
He said unqualified. Wow. Not only are we, man, I'm just going to say this, bro. We're overqualified usually. And that's usually the issue. We threaten. See, when we get hired onto a company, we get a good opportunity. We have to dumb ourselves down, because we will be fired for knowing or showing that we know more than what we know. I mean, more than what people think we know. That's always been our issue. Showing up the supervision, or showing up or making some white person feel uncomfortable, with their preconceived notion of us. So that's how that works with us. We're usually overqualified, especially in life experience and just overall perspective on a well-rounded and fair life. Since you want to talk about fairness, we are the experts in how fairness is supposed to work. Woo, this dude.
By all rights, he's angry at himself. And this was the moment in reading this article that I decided to look into Compact Magazine a little more closely. And in doing so, I found the following tidbit of information, which is interesting per Vanity Fair. Quote, at a recent get-together, lefty mags were roiled to learn that George Soros' foundations are supporting Compact, a publication that's flirted with authoritarianism. It was weird to me the whole effing time, says one attendee. Now, the article goes on to note that sources, Open Society Foundations, have sent hundreds of thousands of dollars to Compact, and I have no idea why that donation was made or what it may have purchased. The leftists at Vanity Fair, they weren't sure either. But I can say that having read this article myself, I find myself agreeing with commentators like Orrin McIntyre, who have called Jacob Savage's article a permission piece. It's a way to finally admit something that the left had previously described as a conspiracy. Except the admission is done in a way that lessens the impact and frames the narrative in a way that is beneficial to the left. And meanwhile, all the leftist journalists can act shocked by the findings, including the ones that are sharing this piece on X right now, shocked and appalled by it, even though everybody on the right has known all of this for years and been saying it and been dismissed. Now think of the mainstream articles that finally acknowledge COVID came from a lab in China, or the articles that acknowledge that the COVID shot can cause serious heart problems. These were all permission pieces. Audiences on the left were finally told a semblance of the truth, but there's never any accountability for the liars, nor is there a full explanation of what actually happened, nor is there an apology. Basically, you get a permission piece when the left's hand is forced. They can't deny reality anymore because the truth has become too obvious. And we've been seeing some of this, by the way, on the trans issue too, with certain articles in mainstream publications admitting that, well, maybe we shouldn't be doing this to kids, maybe it's a bad idea to castrate kids and all this sort of thing. And saying it like they're the first people to ever say it. So that's how this goes. Now, in the case of the piece in Compact Magazine, there are a few elements of obvious spin. The first is the article's implication that systematic anti-white discrimination only really took hold in 2014. In fact, Savage even writes that if you were born in 1974 or earlier, then you were already established and didn't hit the wall of anti-white discrimination. But that is a claim that makes the generational divide seem much starker than it really is. Because in reality, the left's efforts to systematically discriminate against white people and white males in particular, that's been in place for many decades. I mean, this has been going on for a very long time. Back in 2003, there was a major Supreme Court case about the University of Michigan's application process, which was similar to the process used by many other schools. If you were Black, Hispanic, or Native American, then your application automatically received 20 points. And by contrast, if you earned a perfect SAT score, something only a few hundred students do every year out of millions of test takers, then you only got 12 points. And an outstanding personal essay would only get you 3 points. In other words, a white student from a middle-class background with a perfect SAT score and a flawless essay received fewer points than a Black applicant would receive simply for being Black. And even after the Supreme Court struck down this kind of quota system, it persisted, as we all know. The universities just stopped admitting that they were doing it. And long before that, in the 1960s, there was the Philadelphia Plan, where federal contractors were required to start hiring so-called minority workers in the trades, a practice that continues today with a fairly explicit quota system. For tens of thousands of white construction workers beginning in the 1970s, it became more difficult to get an apprenticeship, not because they weren't skilled, not because they didn't have potential, but because of the color of their skin. So we could talk about many more examples because there are an infinite number.
See, this is the issue with that. The issue with that is with the school, with the different point system that they may have had, because I remember this happening, but I wasn't too privy to it. You know, I love when Black people get advantages for being Black. I love it. Because we got so many disadvantages for being Black, you know, historically. So when we do get what may seem like unfair advantages, just know that your ancestors created such a hostile environment for Black people in this country to even exist, let alone thrive, that they had to do that at that point in time. They had to. They had to create some loopholes for our people to jump through so we can jump to the front. Why not? When there was so many different systems in place to not only keep us held back, but threaten our lives, literally threaten our lives for even existing. See, and that's the issue that us modern day, see, I'm a little older than him, but I'm from that era where my parents gave me insight on how wicked these systems was, right? Nowadays, since Obama, they like to think that, it's no more discrimination. We don't need those things. No, we still need them. We need them in place as long as the other systems was in place. So we need this system for about another 100, 200 years. And we need our reparations. Yeah. I wonder what he gonna do when we get them reparations. I'm sure he gonna off himself. I'm sure he gonna hurt himself. He gonna do something very harmful to himself. Him and a whole bunch of them. Look at him on this picture. He gonna cry. He gonna literally cry.
But put simply, the idea that DEI and anti-white racism only became a systemic barrier to white education and employment in 2014 is not remotely true. The Savage is probably correct to point out that in the industries he's talking about, mainly media and entertainment, things accelerated in 2014. But plenty of people in other industries hit this wall well before then. Now, the other element of the story that's being de-emphasized here is that when white men are passed over for jobs because of their skin color, there are plenty of downstream consequences. It's not simply the fact that white men have to settle for worse salaries and less fulfilling careers. They're also less likely to ever own a home or to get married, start a family, have kids. They're more likely to become depressed and turn to drugs, which explains why overdose rates.
Yeah, well, I got a whole lot on that topic. So, white men. Let's start off with this drug. Let's start off with this. Okay. Now, this is only my opinion on that, right? I truly believe that white people in general in this country being on drugs is actually related to the whole white supremacy, white people are better concept and system that's been in place, right? And this is why. White people do stuff and they think they can get away with every goddamn thing, right? The white racists, even the ones that don't even realize that's what they're practicing, but just culturally, in general, that's what I have seen. Like when I was growing up, the first time I seen any hard drugs is when I went out to the all-white area that my best friend lived in. He moved out there. His mother moved. He was one of the few that was out in that area. And we were teenagers, and they broke out some cocaine. That was the first and last time I ever seen cocaine. Now, I never sold drugs in my life. Never sold I sold a little marijuana back in the day. But hard drugs, never sold it. Never hardly seen it. That was the one time I seen it. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, damn. But since then, you got this opioid crisis. And I talked to a lot of brothers. And that's what they do. A lot of black kids that go to white schools, they don't see hard drugs until they go to these all-white schools. And you know why? All these white kids, they got money. They got money and their parents not paying attention because guess what? They're going to get a job regardless. They're a shoe-in to get hired onto a company, because they know somebody. So yeah, a lot of these white kids out in these suburban areas, they're experimenting. They call it experimenting. But yeah, no, you're actually turning into a drug addict. It's not experimenting. No, it's not experimenting. You're doing crack at 12, 13. That's not experimenting. You're doing hard drugs. Your mother and father's at work, and you in the medicine cabinet. That's what's going on. No accountability for these people. They will never be accountable, even for their own kids being on drugs. Now that's something any parent should hold up and say, damn, it's something I did wrong. Don't blame no other race for your kids being on drugs. What the hell is you talking about?
Are so high. And through it all, as fertility rates plummet and men are forced to work jobs that they're overqualified for,
your fertility rates are plummeting because you waiting until you're rich. Y'all have created this thing in the white community where get married at 30 and you know, you had your first kid by 35 and all that. Poor people, that's all they got is each other. They value just being with each other. They don't care about no money. They screwing all day and night. That's all they doing. They screwing. Yeah, and they not thinking about who gonna pay for this, who gonna pay for that. And then guess what? Like in my case, I was 18 when I had my first child. Guess what? I figured it out. I was gainfully employed by the age of 28. I was always working. I always had a job. I always took care of my children, but I needed help. My parents let me live in one of their homes. So rent, you know, I didn't really have to worry about rent. That helped me out. You know, loan me money here and there. Loan me money to help buy a car. They was just, you know, my family helping me out. You know, that's what sustained me early on in my life. When I had 4 kids by the time I was 29, right? But then by the time I was 29, I had a great job, and boom, I was already married. I got married at 22 to my second, to the woman that I had my second child. I had a high school baby. I had 3 children by my ex-wife, and then I have a baby with my woman after my divorce. So all my stuff line up. It makes sense, right? Either way, that's how a lot of us do. We start young. We don't know what we're doing. Baby fresh out of high school or in college. Boom. We struggle. You know, majority our 20s. By the time we in our 30s, we get it right. We buy a home. I bought my first home when I was in my late 30s. I'm in my late 40s now. I'm on my second home. I have 2 homes now. I mean, it worked out. I wasn't sitting here worried about I have to have a baby or have to get married by this. You know, I wasn't trying to plan it all out, even though that is smart. I ain't gonna lie. But guess what? Most of us, man, we young, we don't know. You know, we have babies young. That's not the worst thing in the world. So a lot of y'all fertility rates are going down because y'all have created this thing within the white community. You have to do this. You gotta do this. You got all that shit. Y'all need to throw that shit out the window. That's why your fertility rate's going down.
Men realize exactly what's happening to them. It's not some great mystery. And that leads to justifiable rage as millions of working age men come to realize that their lives have been sacrificed for a leftist experiment.
What the fuck is he talking about? A leftist. All you racist ass white men, heterosexual white men, quit using code word to cover up your hate and your white guilt. Leftists. And man, look, cut it out, bro. This this is not no. If it was, actually, our people went through a bunch of experiments. If you want to talk about experiments, Matt Walsh, our people went through real documented experiments. This experiment you talking about is all in your head. But yeah, let's continue with this dumbass shit.
Now, the biggest and most important downstream consequence of this open discrimination against white men is that everything in society gets worse as a result. That is the second order effect that the compact piece doesn't really get into. It's the third rail, the part you're not supposed to talk about.
Right. Yeah, let's talk about that. So everything was beautiful on the surface when all white men ran everything. You know, on the surface, you know, it was serene. You know, it was all in order on the surface, right? And then we're talking about a certain time frame. You know, in his mind, you know, we got to go back to when all white men wore their suits and they went to work and the white woman was at home cooking and there was no competition in the world. We exported everything, and we made this country made so much money because the rest of the world was decimated and rebuilding after World War II, and they needed our products. We had everything, they didn't have nothing. That day is over. The rest of the world has caught up, and not only that, we are importing way more than we're exporting now, right? And that's why I said earlier I didn't agree with the NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. Because we do need to develop and create more here. But guess why? They took jobs. White men wanted to outsource these jobs so they can have more for their bottom line. It's not our fault that they, shipped all the industry out. These white men were greedy. And on top of that, they didn't want to have jobs for black people in this country. Yeah. So that was that. Okay. They didn't, I remember my father making, a lot of money for, average person back in the 80s, 90s, us going on vacation every year. I remember him getting pushed back for us being at Disney World because we didn't even look like we belonged there. And people ask, how did you get here? Why did you? And it was crazy. I remember hearing these white folks. I don't think they had, bad intentions, but, they would come out and ask my daddy directly, how could you afford to be here? You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of these greedy white men that ran these companies, they didn't want to see their workers at the same places that they frequent. No, they didn't want that. And they wanted to have their bottom line for their shareholders. So I think that was the most the biggest reason why they pulled most of these jobs out of urban areas. When the urban area was all white, that's when all the jobs was plentiful. But when urban became black, that's when they pulled the jobs out.
But the truth, which everybody intuitively knows, is that things were a lot better back when white men were not being discriminated against by every institution in the country, but instead were running most of them. And the fact of the matter is that a hugely disproportionate number of our greatest leaders, innovators, pioneers, explorers, philosophers, and so on, have been white men. I mean, without white men, we wouldn't have airplanes or spaceships or trains or phones or light bulbs or computers or the internet or batteries or x-ray machines or jet engines or rockets or 1,000 other things that our society depends on to exist and to flourish.
Wow. You know what? That right there, that comment right there, that was the comment. I know I'm going to end up clipping this out for a short. But yeah, that comment right there, it's like when someone does something for someone else and then they have to remind them that they did it, right? So you didn't do it out of just wanting it to be done, right? You did it. You helped that person for your own ego. You wasn't helping that person. You was helping yourself. So in his mind, Matt Walsh's mind, innovation happened so white men could simply get the credit for it, right? Well, if that's the case, white men wouldn't even be white men without black men. You know why? Because white men came from black men. You wouldn't even have a life. You wouldn't even be white without this. So we can say that about your whole race. If it wasn't for black people, white people wouldn't exist. And keep saying it, keep parroting it. And basically meaning you need to worship us. Because that's basically what he's saying. Without all of this stuff, we wouldn't have all of the developments, and the world wouldn't be, guess what? It wouldn't be a world without black people to begin with. It's crazy. Ludicrous.
We never would have had a railway system or the printing press. We wouldn't have this country, which was founded by white men and led by white men and expanded from coast to coast and settled and built up mostly by white men.
Mostly. We all know that's a lie. Boy, look at this man. He don't even believe his own lies.
Now, these are all facts. Historical.
Are you sure? I don't think he's sure about that. I don't think he's sure that these are all facts. Look at him. I don't think he's sure. The way he said that too, he's trying to convince himself. Because no one else is convinced.
Realities that cannot be denied by reasonable people. It's just true. And while black women are encouraged to be proud of the historical achievements of black women, whatever those might be, and Asians to be proud of Asian achievements and Native Americans of Native American achievements and so on, white men are the one group in the entire face of the planet who've been forbidden to even acknowledge what other white men have accomplished.
What the fuck? Wow. Wow. He really... No, I don't think he believed this shit. But he's saying it. The sad part about it is a lot of y'all believe it. You know what I mean? A lot of y'all will watch this. A lot of racist white men will watch this in your trailer and think like, that's the problem. No, the problem is you sitting on your ass doing them drugs and sitting up there and you thought everything was just going to be handed down to you. Your parents wasn't preparing you for real life. Like really working and competing in this world. Really, really working. See, y'all had bootstraps, but you took them off. I don't know when, but you had them and you just threw them to the side. Remember that pull yourself up by your bootstraps? Y'all had the bootstraps and you threw them away. Why would you throw your bootstraps away, man? Oh, man, this right here. Now, we're proud, and we say it loud, to combat, to try to make sense of the hate that we have been historically fed about ourselves. You know, that whole history of black women being raped by his ancestors. That was the time frame where black women felt like they were pieces of property, right? And they were pieces of meat, right? And they could never be, and they was always told they could never be. And that's called, when you have trauma like that and it's passed down, that's called generational trauma. Look it up. It's not only relevant in white people, it's relevant in black people too. And trust me, a lot of these diagnoses that these new psychiatrists and psychologists that came with, when it come to white people, PTSD, Stockholm syndrome, all of that, it actually should have been diagnosed with my ancestors here in this country. Yeah, so when you see a black woman being proud of her heritage here in this country, that's in direct response to the historical trauma that has been inflicted on her and passed down. So we trying to come out of the matrix. We're not trying to put white people in the matrix. Not at all. You don't even have no reason to bring up all of the great things that your people have done. You know, it's understood, don't need to be explained. So when you bringing up stuff that's already understood, that's redundant. That's redundant, man. That's why it don't make sense for white men to be proud or I wouldn't even say proud. See how it would look, the optics of it. It's like, why are you bringing that up? We already know. But we don't know about this strong black woman history. So it's enlightening. We don't know about Japanese American history. So it's enlightening. We are all taught what white men do from day one. It's promoted. It's old, bro. We have to find new shit. And that's why Make America Great Again argument is the dumbest shit ever. Because we already heard that. Let's make America great once and for all. That's what, when you see a black woman speaking about being proud of her hair, it's trying to add to what your ancestors are known for. All of the things that you just stated. When a black, it's not taking away nothing from it. It's adding to it. But since you look at it as, oh, it's you're trying to take away. No, nobody's trying to take nothing away from you. How can we? That's the crazy part about these racist, white, guilty ass men. It's like they don't understand. They are the red, white, and the blue. You are that. That's yo. We trying to add some different colors to it though, bro. Damn, why we can't advance? Why we gotta stay stuck in the past? Why we can't move forward? Yeah, you could bring up, the history of your white, whatever they did here, but guess what? They wasn't the only ones. That's all we be saying.
Much less to express any pride in it, God forbid. Instead, our society set out on a campaign to punish and exclude and alienate this very group. That is their reward for having carried the...
Alienate, man. Now, black people, I need y'all to get in the comments on this. Every time I'm around white people, they try to alienate me. I mean, I'm talking about, like, not even systematically. Like, I'm talking about, like yesterday at the store, I mean, I see white people reaching around me like I'm not there. Just acting like I don't exist, right? And I always make my presence felt just by acknowledging them, right? So it's like, that alienation thing, man, listen here. If y'all could blink us away, y'all would. If white people could blink black people away, you guys would do it in a heartbeat. We would have been extinct. But we don't feel like that about y'all. Not at all. And let alone systematically, like I said, we're adding to. So it's not that we're like deleting nothing. We're adding to it. But when you writing a sentence, you don't keep going back to the beginning of the sentence. You keep writing it. You keep writing it. So he want to keep going back to the beginning of the sentence. No, bro, we were still writing it. Still writing the story. We don't go back to the beginning and talk about the beginning. We still writing it. The book is still being written, bro. The fuck is you talking about?
Weight of Western civilization on their shoulders. But white men, as it turns out, they're not just good at building and flying spaceships. They're also good at writing television shows and covering the news and teaching students at the university level and so on. In fact, in the aggregate, based on every existing piece of available evidence, white men are better at all of these tasks than the allegedly underprivileged communities that are replacing them. And if that sounds harsh, I really don't care. It happens.
What's your criteria on better? Like, if you're talking about art, bro, it's see, and this is the thing about anyone that think art is a competition. Art is a fully integratable, fully collaborative process. It's not nothing where you're competing per se when you are creating the art. It's a collaborative effort. It take a whole lot of different minds to create, right? So when you're talking about this is how this man's argument is completely off, because you can't make the argument that any art is better than another. It's all subjective, man. It's all objective. You know, like it's all in the eye of the beholder. So this guy is off the rails. But I guess when you got 3.3 million subscribers, I guess this he probably at the point where he could just say, like, he could say anything and it's going to get a lot of views anyway. But the viewership I seen on this, it really don't match his amount of subscribers at all. You know, it's like kind of low. But yeah, I seen other people responding to it too, and that's how he even got on my radar. So yeah, let's finish this dumbass argument.
To just be true. And the underrepresented minorities, so-called, that I'm talking about in many cases can be some of the most vindictive people in the country. Back in 2015, as the author Wesley Yang pointed out, BuzzFeed published one of their insufferable listicles that were very popular back in those days. This one was titled 23 Writers with Messages for Straight White Male Publishing. And we'll put up some of the messages on the screen right now so you can see them. So you have girl bosses of various ethnicities saying things like, "Sit down and let us abolish you." And "She's coming for you," with the middle finger. These are explicitly hateful, deranged messages directed at white men, and they were published enthusiastically by a major news outlet. Like the kind of thing you would never see directed at any other race or group, ever. And this kind of race hate was commonplace in 2015. And this is in publishing, which, yet again, well, what have white men done in publishing? What sin have they committed? Well, I don't know. I mean, only like most of the greatest authors in the history of Western civilization have been white men. Not all of them, but most of them. If you were to make a list of the top 500, I think like 480 of them, at least, would be white men. So that's the sin that white men committed in publishing, was just being like really, really good at it and being great, brilliant writers. And so for that trouble, not only are they cut out, but they get a middle finger on the way out the door. And guess what? The girl bosses were right. I mean, they did abolish white men in the entertainment industry. The writers are mostly women and minorities now. And almost all their shows are garbage. I mean, can you give me an example of a show? And maybe you can. I'm just throwing this out there. Can you give me an example of a show that is where the writer's room is predominantly consists of minorities and women, and the show is good? Can you
see? This is all nuance. This is all in the eye of the beholder. So he obviously don't watch none of them shows. So how can you gauge? Just like I've never seen that show that he mentioned is the best show, Severance. I've never even heard of it. So I would say that's garbage. Like a lot of these greatest shows of all time, Seinfeld, I've never watched that. A lot of black people, like, we don't watch what y'all watch. So we can't say if it's good or bad. But we just know when we watch it, we just don't fuck with it. We don't feel it. So we just turn it. You know what I'm saying? And that's what you got to do when you seeing something that you don't like, that you think bad. You just turn it. You don't say it's bad. I can't say that Game of Thrones is bad. I've never watched it. Never watched Game of Thrones. I don't want to watch it. I tried to watch it. It don't sit right with me. Just don't sit right with me. So I turned it. But I didn't get on here and talk about, oh, this the worst show. White men make the worst. I don't even know who made that show. But the point of it is, I'm not an expert. I don't know it. You know what I'm saying? So who are you? It's just like what Beanie Siegel say. You're not qualified. You're not qualified, bro. Matt Walsh, you're not qualified to say if any of them shows were with predominantly black or other ethnicity writers in the writing room, if their shows are bad. You're not qualified. It's not what you that's not what it wasn't made for you.
You give one example of that? I think you probably can. I think there's not one example of that. I think that this cohort has not managed to make one good show ever.
So like I said, man, a lot of these shows he talking about wasn't made for his demographic. So he's supposed to not like, he's not supposed to like it, right? And it's more of them than it is us. So the numbers not going to ever match up. But guess what? Like I said earlier, the way that content is consumed now, it has changed in general. Like I look at my 8-year-old, she's on an iPad looking at shorts all day. My 30-year-old, she like a good long movie. You know what I mean? Two totally different. They're from two totally different generations. You know, they're both my daughters, but they look at things differently. So it's just different, man. And this, like I said earlier, this 39-year-old guy, white male, he most likely grew up hearing stories of the glory days of America. He want to take things back. And it's never going to go back. Trust me. It can't go back.
It is what it is. That's just the facts of the matter.
He don't even believe this
I mean, it's
shit.
almost as if they're intentionally bad. You know, television peaked before all these people took over. And the only conclusion you can draw realistically is that girl bosses.
No, television peaked because television was the only type of way you could consume anything at that time. This is like just facts, bro. Technology. Like this dude. Yeah, I'm gonna get off. I done seen enough of this shit. And yeah, I can't take no more. Can't take no more. This is ridiculous. This is probably the dumbest argument I ever heard. He want to talk about the 50s and 60s and 70s, like all the rest of these MAGA people. Oh, everything. No. I'm in the music business, right? They don't sell CDs no more. Eminem, when he was blowing up, that was like the height of selling CDs, right? So when he sold however many millions CDs, man, it was going down, right? That was the industry and the technology at the time, right? So now that we got streaming, you can't have someone to sell as many millions of records like he did because it's just not the same format. It's different. So I have this type of back and forth with a lot of people from my era all day comparing, you know, the 90s with today and how it's so different. But guess what? Technology, if you understand how to use technology, it's actually better. It's actually better. The entryway in is better. And like if you look at the barrier of entry, it's always going to benefit the marginalized, right? We're from Flint, Michigan. We have a thriving music scene here. Now, when Eminem was popular, or he's still popular, but when he was first coming out, our version of popularity wouldn't even scratch the surface of his. You know, our successful music scene wouldn't even scratch the surface of his. But to have musicians that are living off of their art, that's how I would, you know, consider success. Like they are actually buying homes, they're taking care of their families. They're not living in mansions. You know, maybe one or two of them are. Rio the Young OG, He living in a nice mansion. He's the biggest of our scene. And then you got Pac-Man. He's another big one. And a couple other ones. Babyface E. But the rest of them, they're, for the most part, just surviving and taking care of their family. You know, they good working class type of money, right? But I would call that a success. You know, either way, you have to look at the way that technology is compared to how it was back, you know, when all white men ran every damn thing. Everything is different, man. Everything, we're living in a world that it's more competition. You know, it's a global economy. America not going to be the only one to have cars, you know, for example, to export all these different items. Now we're in a place where we're importing more. Like I said, we're even importing a lot of our food, you know. I mean, that's just where we are. But what we have to do is we have to collectively get, especially the working class people, we have to collectively get together and figure out how we can change the tide, right? Because pointing fingers at each other, you know, someone making 30,000 or someone making $30 an hour versus someone making $20 an hour. I just heard that analogy. That's where we at right now. The majority of people are not successful like Matt Walsh. So he's doing the same thing that Trump is doing. He's pandering. He's trying to get a rise out of the majority of us that are not wildly successful. You know, that's how any system, any group can thrive here, is by getting a reaction from the majority working class, the majority of us that are not wildly successful. So he made that video on purpose with that flannel shirt to try to seem like a normal American. I'm sure he got a mansion as well. It's weird, you know, how these guys grift and they try to, you know, get all of us to view their video, their content, you know, and that's basically the same thing that MAGA has done. They're getting a rise out of working class, everyday people. But guess what? They're giving all the tax breaks to their rich people, you know, their rich friends. So don't be fooled by these people that try to create these basically these headlines, arguments. They're basically trying to get a rise out of y'all by talking about when white men ran everything. And listen, we're never going back there. If y'all stay on that, all that's going to happen is y'all going to get more upset, more angry, and you're going to want to do something, just like what a lot of y'all are doing in the white community. Y'all going to want to hurt somebody. It's not our fault. So stop it. Yeah, man, look, I'm out. If y'all like this content, y'all enjoyed it, get in the comment section, share a comment, share the video, get the video out, like, share, subscribe, you know, all of that good stuff. And yeah, man, we need to get this out in the algorithm. Like I said, I'm trying to get 1,000 subscribers before a month from now. Trying to get monetized. So I need engagement. If you enjoyed this content, let me know. Thank you. I appreciate you. All right, y'all have a good Christmas, man. I'm out. One. Yeah. Harlan Speaks Live. Welcome back to another one. Tell the truth here. Don't care if it make them uncomfortable. It ain't our fault. Yo, it's Marlon Speaks Live. Yeah, I'm saying what they hide. History uncensored, let the real survive. Yeah, it's truth over comfort, I don't pick no side. If it shake the room a little, let the truth collide. Cause it's Marlon Speaks Live. No script, no disguise. I don't sell no lies, just to monetize. Cause the past still breathing and it never dies. Yeah, it's Marlon Speaks Live. Now the truth will rise. Yo, it's Marlon Speaks Live. Yeah, I'm saying what they hide. History uncensored, let the real survive.